Reflecting her strong academic foundation, ma'am has successfully undertaken a minor research project on the reproductive biology of cyprinid footfishes, and she has received prestigious recognitions, including the Young Scientist Award and Best Papers Awards at international conferences. She has presented her research papers at various international forums across Spain, Sri Lanka, Malaysia, Vietnam, Japan, as well as at several national conferences. She has published 12 research papers in international journals and serving as a reviewer for more than 27 reputed journals, including Elsevier's Publications Journal Fisheries Research. She has made noteworthy contributions to academic community, and she has also guided more than 25 student research projects in fish biology and aquatic ecology. Today, we are indeed fortunate to have such an eminent academician and researcher among us to share her knowledge and insights. So, on behalf of our college organizing committee and all the participants, I extend a warm and heartfelt welcome to you, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for your brief introduction.
Thank you, Vijalata ma'am. Now it's my privilege to invite Dr. Shubha M. ma'am to deliver her valuable lecture. Madam?
Thank you. Thank you. I'll share the screen, sir.
Yeah, please.
Ma'am, voice is not audible, madam.
Whose voice, sir?
Resource person voice.
Sorry, sir. There was some disruption. I will share the screen.
Please, ma'am. Please, ma'am.
Are you able to see the slides?
Yeah, ma'am. It's visible, ma'am. It's visible.
Okay. Good afternoon, to all the participants. I am Dr. Shubha from BMS College for Women, Pasavangudi. Today, I will be discussing about the research methodology in biological sciences, which is essential for every faculty who are involved in teaching, research, and guiding in several projects, which are whether it is an undergraduate or the postgraduate programs. So the research methodology, it provides the scientific framework for conducting the meaningful research, as well as the most importantly, the reliable research. So in biological sciences, if I go in deep into that, the research ranges from the molecular biology to the ecology, involving all aspects, whether it is botany, zoology, environmental science, microbiology, or biotechnology. And it has a strong, there should be a strong methodology so that it ensures that our findings are valid, reproducible, and impactful. So with this introductory, my objectives of today's talk is about understand the research methodology framework. So understanding about how we are going to progress in our the research problem and how we are going to identify the research problem, that is the most important aspects in the first step in the research, because whatever the research problem we are identified, it should be impactful, and it is a need for the society or the need for the day. The topic, whatever we have said, we should select, it should be the need for the day. And finally, the process will go on from the problem identification up to the publication process. So the second objective of my talk is the learned research design in biological sciences. So now here, what are the types of the biological experiments we are going to conduct? Because if it is in an ecological research, there will be more field project. If it is a molecular biology or in the microbiology and the biotechnology, lab-oriented work will be more. So that we have to be very clear what are the types of the biological experiments after the identification of the problem. What are the types of the experiments we are going to carry on? So whether it is field studies or the laboratory experiments or the observational studies or the behaviors, is the in vivo, in vitro. So that should be very clear. So that is what the research design in the biological sciences are. So the third objective is explore sampling and the statistic analysis. So whatever the biological findings we do, whether it is a behavioral analysis, field report, the questionnaire is very less in the science part of the research. So, or the molecular biology, the statistic analysis, or the statistical validation, it plays an important role. So the proper sampling and the statistical validation is the must for the research. And the last objective of my talk is discuss research ethics and publication. So whatever the experimentation we are carrying on, it should be ethically experimented. Then there should be a plagiarism avoidance, because the papers, whatever we are publishing through the varieties of the journal, it will go for the plagiarism checkup. So it should be plagiarism avoidance, and it should be we should see that we are a responsible scientific, the responsible scientific communication to be done with these objectives. So I'm going to talk about the research methodology in biological sciences. So before going into the methodology, let us understand what is research is. So the research, it is a careful and systematic effort of gaining new knowledge. So knowledge advances by repeating, not by repeating the non-facts, but refuting the false dogma. So we should not look into the problem. So whatever it is already done, so that I will come with the literature review, in the literature review. But the new problem, the new statement, what exactly the society needs. So that is what we are supposed to take into the account. So which will have the more valuable and it will be accountable. So research, it is a careful and systematic effort of gaining the new knowledge, according to the Mary and Redman. So according to the Newman, a collection of methods and methodologies that researchers apply systematically to produce scientifically based knowledge and about the social world. So that is what the societal needs. Whatever the research we do, that should be apt to the society or need for the society, that problem we have to be selected. So with what are the object when you do the when you want to do the research, what are the main objectives of the research? One is assessment, then the second one is exploration, then third one is evaluation, fourth one is examination, comparison.
Madam, your voice is not audible. Dear participants, there might be a small technical glitch at resource person side. Ma'am will rejoin soon. Dr. Shubha ma'am.
Yeah. Yeah. Uh, Sir, are you able to see the screen?
Yes, ma'am. It is visible, ma'am.
It's visible. So the research is the system. Sorry, we were in the fourth slide. That is the assessment. What are the objectives of the research? One is the assessment, to observe the situation and infer the result. The second one is the exploration, to uncover the reality facing problem. And the third one is evaluation, to measure the level of existence. All this should be your objectives of the research. Then examination, to test the existence, and comparison, to compare and contrast between the given variable. Estimation, the project probable level of happening, and the propagation, to declare a concept, theory, and the system or a model. So this should be the objective of the research. So the research is a systematic investigation to generate the new knowledge. For example, if you study fish reproductive biology, we do not simply observe the spawning season. The main important aspect to study the reproductive biology is the spawning season. And taking one example, what exactly to be done over here. So then we designed the experiment to understand what are the factors controlling the reproduction, such as the temperature, photoperiod, or hormonal regulation. So this is one example how we investigate the research with, to generate the new knowledge. So we are not be concentrating to study only to observe the spawning periodicity. So with that, we have to look into the factors. What are the controlling factors? Whether the reproduction is influenced by the temperature, or it is influenced by the photoperiod, or by the hormonal regulation. So if you look into the need for the needs for the research, if you look into the need for the research, so here the most important thing for the needs for the research are going to look
Madam, your voice is not clear. Dr. Shubha ma'am.
Hello.
Ma'am, your
Yeah.
voice is not clear.
Not clear. One minute, so I'll check the connectivity.
Please, please.
So, very clearly.
Our Adanu mic first.
Is the screen visible enough? Is the screen? Is the screen visible?
No, ma'am. Only you are visible, ma'am. Your screen is visible.
PPT is not visible?
No, ma'am. PPT is not visible.
Okay, now?
Yeah, now it is visible, ma'am. Please go ahead, ma'am. Thank you.
Power problem, so that's why it is. I'm sorry, really apologize for this.
It's okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Yeah.
Please go ahead.
So
Please go ahead.
need for the research. So the research is the gateway to findings as well as the opportunities. Then the research promotes the sharing of the valuable information. Research is the nourishment for our mind. If you are passionate about the research, then it is a nourishment for the mind. research leads to better understanding of the issues. Through the research, we can make our business or more successful. That is, if you go for the patent level, so it builds the knowledge and makes learning more efficient. So that is the need for the research. So the next one is, why do we need research? So if you look into the make the life worthy and happy, so these are the aspects which are why we need the research. Builds our credibility, it sparks the connections, encourages the curiosity, gives strength to the mind and thinking, create possibility to thrive, and expands your knowledge of the base. All scientific things, it always expands the knowledge to the base. So this is how, why do we need? So before starting with the research, we have to think what is the need for the research, why I am intended to do the research, what is my subject where I am interested into. So when we think about that, we have to look into all this, what are the gateway for finding my opportunities. So the gateway is nothing but which are the institute. So we have to check in where I'm going to pursue the PhD, what are the topics. So if I do in specific laboratories, will I able to complete the research project? So the basic things before the research, all those things has to be checked, whether there's a gateway to finding my thinking or my problem statement, then how I can share the valuable information. So that also leads to the nourishment of the mind, and the research leads to the better understanding of the issues, and where I am going to carry out the research, and how I'm going, what are the strategies I'm going to look into to solve that methodological process to do that problem. And finally, what will be the output, and what are the methods of the statistical analysis I am going to with that research. Okay. So the motivation of the research is desire to get a research degree along with all consequential benefits. So that will be the first priority for a researcher, to get a degree along with all consequential benefits. So we have to clear the various exams to go to the research in the higher institute. Whatever some deemed university, they have their own examination to clear, or JRF with the net qualification, especially the JRF, and then any other gateway relevant examination where the university will prefer the candidate to carry out the research. Then desire to face the challenges in solving the unsolved problem. So this is one of the most important aspects. So when we start doing with the research, there will be more ups and downs. Sometimes if it is a laboratory experiment, many repeated trials will not be able to get the result in the first trial, or in the second trial, or the third trial. So you may have to the changes in the protocol, whatever we are standardized. So there should be various challenges we have to face, because whatever the research we are doing, that's what I mentioned in the first thing, we are not going to do the repeated facts. Somebody has done in America some research, and the same thing we are going to do in India. So that is of no benefits to the society. So we have to do the refuted facts, not the repeated research. So here, decide to face the challenges in solving the unsolved problems, but because we are going to look to the unsolved problem, and desire to get intellectual joy and doing some creative work. So how much of the literature review we do, then we will get more idea. So that is what we have decided, to get intellectual joy of doing some creative work. So when we involve deep into the research, so step by step, we will get new idea. So after this, what I am going to next. For that, I am going to look into the literature, what exactly is done. Suppose this person has conducted that, and if I do like this, what will be the end result? So the different level we are going to look into. So that is what decide to get intellectual joy of doing some creative work. Whatever the new findings we are getting, that is the creative work of the individual. It may be by the reference or the guidance with the help of the guide or many co-workers who are involved in that. But when we involve deep into this research, we get the intellectual joy that we have come out with the new ideas for the creative work. And finally, the result to be the service to the society. So this is what I told you. When you look into the topic or the problem statement for the research, the most important thing is how my research is contributing to the society or to the world. So whichever the topic we are going to take into, so that we have to consider in our mind that it should be served to the society. So that is what that is said to be service to society and to the after all, when we do a new creative work, when we find it a new things, so there will be a respect. So that is what then we said to get a respectability. So the respect, once you get when you're involved in the research and when you have finished your research from the highest institutions or research institution, the respect and the knowledge you enhance, that will have its own value than doing a simple research for the namesake. So this should be the motivation for our to complete the research process. Now let us come to the topic. What are the types of research? So we have to understand what are the types of the research. One is the qualitative the research, and the second one is the quantitative, as well as the third one is the mixed research. So that is what the most important. So the basic research. That is, if I take before going into that, if I take the research can be classified into the four means. One is the basic research, second one is the applied research, third one is the translational research, and fourth one is the interdisciplinary research. So what exactly is, why this classification are basic, applied, translational, and interdisciplinary research? So if I go for the basic research, so it is just expanding the scientific knowledge. For example, if I give the example for that is, if I am studying how the gene functions, that is the basic of the research. One example I am giving. So coming to the applied research is nothing but we are putting our application into that basic research so that it solves a practical problem. So if I take an example, the example of vaccine development. So during the COVID, various vaccines have developed. So that is one which is for that research. Then coming to the translational research, it converts the lab finding into the medical application. So how this whatever the finding it is done and how it is going to benefit to the society. So whatever the lab finding it is done and how it is going to convert, how it is useful. So one example, whatever the different level of the vaccine it is it was discovered, and what is the medical application to that. That it is called as the translational research. And the last one, it is interdisciplinary research. It combines the biology, that is whether it's the botany or the zoology, with bioinformatics, chemistry, biochemistry, etc. All this it is considered as the interdisciplinary research. Okay. So now coming to the types of the research, as I told you, it is the qualitative, quantitative, as well as the mixed research. So what exactly is the qualitative research? Qualitative research, it is nothing but a numerical observation to answer. Why? The questions will be always why. So they will develop the questionnaire, why what are the methods is used in the data, and how it will be counted or converted into numerical form. So it is always why and how the question. So there will be generally the questionnaire will be developed. So this can be this type of the research is in the medical field it happens. So where they set up along the question, suppose to identify the prevalence of the malaria is in the particular location, or the population census, all those they comes under the qualitative research. And if you look into the quantitative research is what exactly in the science, especially the biological science, it's going to happen. One is the analytical study, and the second one is the descriptive study. If you look into the analytical study, one is observational. If you are going to do the behavior study, it will be observational research. Then cohort study will be there. Then the case control study. Then experimental, molecular, microbiology, biotechnology. All those consist of experimental, repeated experimental with the different protocol. And then there will be the randomized trial should be done to have get a result over the control. So all this they comes under the analytical. One is the observational. The second one is the cohort. Third one is the case study, case control study. The fourth one is the experimental, and the fifth one is the randomized trial. So this is the one which comes under the analytical the research. The second one, it is the descriptive research. If you look into the descriptive research, so there it may be the case report, is the case series of the case series, and the cross-sectional research. So this majority of the UG students and the PG students, they will be doing this conceptual research or the descriptive research based on the case report or the case series studies or the cross-sectional studies. They are going to derive the conclusion. So basically, when we enroll into the true research, so that this analytical one is going to play an important role. So this is what the types of the research is: descriptional versus analytical, applied versus fundamental, quantitative versus the qualitative, conceptual versus the empirical research, and some other types of the research. So what are the some other types of the research? So the research may be one-time research, is if it is confined to a single time period, that it is called as the one-time research. So the population census, yearly, it is once in a year. So that's why it is called as the one-time research. So suppose if they want to study the prevalence of the COVID or the prevalence of the cancer in a particular area, so they select a population where, and then how many members are affected in that area. So they take the census, and then they will go to the next step. What is the cause for this in this area? Why these diseases are prevalent? So since it is confined to a single time period, that it is called as the one-time research. And the second one is the longitudinal. The research is carried over several time periods. It repeatedly draw the sample units of the population over a time. Or one method is to draw different units from the same sampling frame. Or the second method is to use a panel where the samples are asked to respond periodically. So trend studies, panel studies, for then the disease study, all this they comes under the longitudinal research. Repeated research, it is not one-time research. It is repeatedly from the sample units of the population, it is the research is drawn. And the last one, the most important, the diagnostic research or the clinical research. Here, research follow the case study methods or in-depth approaches to reach the basic, what is the causal relation, rationalist as well as the relation whatever it is existing. So here the research is done by the doctors on the crucial research that is where the diagnostic research or the clinical research plays an important role. So these are some other types of the research. Now, knowing all those the different types of research, now what is the research process involved in our the step-by-step process which are involved in our research. So first one is the first thing we are going to understand or to make out what exact problem we are going to study. So that is, we are going to problem statement, title or the problem statement. So we are going to define the problem. When we are defining the problem, and we should know about the objectives of that problem. Why we are going to do that research. Suppose if I want to study the water analysis selected lakes in the Bangalore, so my statement, research statement, it should be a study of the few the hydrological analysis of the few selected lakes in Bangalore. So that will be the problem of the statement, and then before identifying the problem, I have to first look into that. What is the objective of my research? Why I am going to do this research? Why I am selecting only the few lakes or somewhere? So the most important thing in the research process is define the problem and the research objective. So a good research problem, it should be clear, it should be specific, it should be feasible, and it should be relevant to the society or to the scientific advancement. So what I'm again stressing that whatever the research we are choosing into, it should have the relevant to the society or the scientific advancement. Okay, then coming to the second step is design the research with the plan of collecting data. So once we are identified the statement, so the next most important, so the second step is most important, that is our plan. Yes, so how we plan when we construct meet an architecture to construct a house. So this is the most important step in our research. We have to plan of how we are going to proceed with the experiment or with the collecting the data. And third one is the after doing all this, the third step is to implement the research. How we are going to, with this objective, with the design, whatever we are prepared, how we are going to implement the research. That is nothing but how we are going to collect the sample or how we are going to conduct the experiment in the laboratories. And once we get the result, and how we are going to analyze the data. So that is the one we are going to the step 3. And under the step 4, once we have completed with the research, some disturbance. Once we are going to complete the report, the research, then we are going to produce the result. So when we are going to produce the result in science, the statistic analysis is its most important step. Without the statistic analysis, none of our result it will be accepted. So we have to plan that our research should have some measurable data. For example, if you go and study the behavioral science also, in that also there should be some measurable value so that we can interpret the results, we can bring about the inferences, and we have to report the findings. So these are the 4 important steps in our research process. One is the define the problem. That is, problem is nothing but our research statement. And when we define the research problem, we should be very sure that what is the objective behind the problem or the statement I am going to select. The second one is, after selecting the problem and finding out the objective, then the next one is we have to design how I am going to conduct research. In what are the methodology I am going to practice, whether I am involving only the experimental, that is laboratory work, or whether I am going to study in population as well as in the laboratory, in nature as well as in the laboratory, or whether I am going to the mix both the studies to bring out differences. So that is what the designing and the planning, how I am exactly performing the research and going to collect the data. Then the third one is, once the design is made, then the third step is implementation. So to carry out the research work, if it is a data collection, how I am going to collect the data. Then after the collecting data, how I am going to prepare the data and then analyze the data. Analyzing the data, so there we will come to know whatever the research we have planned with the effects, whether it has a statistical relevance. So if there is no statistical relevance, then we have to repeat the research. We might have gone, because once we do it is not a single trial. Many trials we are supposed to do that. So when you produce the result, then we are going to interpret the results. Then we are, after the interpretation, we are going to bring the conclusion or inferences, and finally we are going to report the findings. So these are the important research process. Then coming to the 3 research approaches are one is observational research, that is gathering the data by observing the people's actions or situation. So that it is called as exploratory. So most of the time the behavioral studies, yes, it is the observational research. The second one is the survey research, then asking the individuals about the attitude, preferences, or the behavior. This is the descriptive. Usually, again, it is in the medical field they are going to do this survey research, and most of the science it is experimental research, whether it is botany, whether it is zoology, any aspects of the life sciences. It is experimental research. We will be using the people to determine the cause and affect the relationship, or that we are going to conduct the experiment to find out what, or suppose if you want to study some of the phytochemical extraction, antimicrobial, anti-cancerous property of some plants. So the extensive experiment work has to be carried out. So these are the 3 research approaches: observational research, the field data collection, the survey research, usually in the medical sciences, and it can be given to the students, both the UG and the PG students. The questionnaires can be set, and whatever that they want to bring out in the population with urban and the rural areas, they can select maybe the COVID or the malaria or the tumor, the cancer, etc. And survey method, so how it is prevalent in the urban or the, so that can be given to the students into the project type. So they can also do the wonderful, they will have the idea for doing the wonderful research. That is the one most widely used form, even in the psychology, etc. And this experimental the research is zoology, botany, microbiology. So extraction, analysis, is everything it will be conducted in the lab. So that it consists of numerous setting of an experiment, that it is the experimental research. So with these basic idea, so this is what the research process steps are: formulating the research. Then we are going to do the extensive literature survey. Then we are, from that survey, we are going to develop the research hypothesis. And then we are preparing the research design and determining the research design, and then collecting the research data, execution of the project. Then after the execution of the project, whatever the data we have got, it is analyzing of the data, again the hypothesis testing, whether it is significant, then interpretation, and finally the presentation, the preparation of the report and or the presentation of the results. So this is the research process of the step, starting from identification statement, everything it is interlinked. So first we have to identify. To identify, we have to do the literature survey. After the literature survey, we get an hypothesis, we'll develop a hypothesis. Then according to that, we are going to prepare a research design, how we are going to carry out the research. Then we are going to determine the research design. Then we are going to collect the data, whether it is by experimental method or observational method. We are going to collect the data. Then so because if it is an experimental method, many times we have to do the trials. So we are going to execution of the project as trial 1, trial 2, trial multiple. Then we are, whatever the data or the result we got, we are going to do the analysis. Then we are going to do the interpretation, and finally we are going to prepare the report or the presentation of the report. So this is what we are going to do, find out the process of the steps which are involved in the process of doing the research. Then so we have already explained this exploratory research, descriptive research, and the casual research. So again, I'll come to that point. The exploratory research is gathering the preliminary information to define the problem and suggest the hypothesis. Yes, so literature search, interviews, focus, case studies, company audits, qualitative research. Company audit doesn't exist in the biological method. So qualitative research, all this they comes under the exploratory research. And the descriptive research is nothing but we are going to describe the things as the market potential. Yes, so secondary data analysis we are going to do, that is the ecological pollution studies, the secondary data or descriptive research can be done. And coming to the third one, the casual research is nothing but to test the hypothesis about the cause and effect of relationship. There will be the variables over there. So that is what we are going to, so these are the types of the research design. So now, after preparing our research design, then we are going to look into the steps in developing a sample plan. Yes, so the we are going to define the population is nothing but the study interest. The second one is we are going to select the choose the data collection method. Then we are going to choose how frequently we are going to do the sampling. So what are the different method of the sampling, whether it is group data, individual data we are going to collect. And then we are, after that we are going to select the sampling methods. So how at least minimum of 1 year study or 2 year study is required. Some 2 year study, because sometimes we may study the effect of the temperature or seasonal wise studies we may do. So at that time, at least the 2 years of study might be required. And we are going to determine the sample size, how big the data should be. Bigger the data is the repeated research, bigger the data, better interpretation can be done. And we are going to develop and specify an operational plan, how we are going to interpret the research. And finally, we are going to execute the sampling, that is the result, and the statistic analysis we are going to do. Okay. Now, to do all those things, the most important thing is we have to review the literature. Yes, how much our literature we review, then we will be able to understand what exactly the work case has done already. If you do the repeated research, we will not be able to publish the data, whatever it is already published. So we have to be very careful. So once the problem is identified or formulated, so we have to take the researcher should take an extensive research literature review connected with that problem. So what is the importance of this literature review? When we review more and more literature review is nothing but, suppose if I am going to select a topic, studies on the reproductive biology in particular area of a particular fish. So I should look into that, how many papers it is already published as in that particular fish, or in the family of that related species of that fish, how much it is published. For that, I have to do the scanning of literature, thorough scanning of the literature has to be done. So we are going to refining the statement of the problem. It will assist in defining the statement of the problem, strengthening the argument of the selection of a research topic, so we can justify that. So justification is must. When we write the proposal, what is the objective of this research? We have to justify that. Since there is a lacuna in this paper or in this topic, that is why the present paper aimed to study. So that is what we have to. It helps to strengthening the argument of selection of the research topic, and finally it helps to get the familiar with various types of methodology that may be that is used in the study. So whatever we have designed or I have designed for my research, yes. So when I go for the literature review, many literature review, I will get to know more methodologies, how each paper exists, what is X paper methodology, what is the paper methodology followed in the Y, Z, etc. So like that, there is a scope for to get a better design of our studies. So the questions that can be answered by the review of the literature are whether the research questions already has been answered by someone else. So that is what, whether research is carried out earlier, or what is chronology of the development of the knowledge about my research problem, or what are the key theories or the concept and ideas known about this research problem, or what direction methodology indicated by the work of the other researchers is along the line with my research, or how can I bridge the gap? Yes, if there's a gap between the two methodologies, how can I bridge the gap? Or are there any gaps in the knowledge of the subject? Or what are the major issues of the debate about my research problem? Considering all these aspects, the literature review plays an important role. So we cannot look into the research or design the research methodology by looking into 1, 2, or 3 papers. As many as people, the paper, it has to be viewed or reviewed. So what are the sources of literature? As for some aspect, there may be the books, monograph, or edited collection. The most important in the science, we have to look into the journal articles, the academic journals, conference proceedings. Okay, so when we select the journal, so there are many journals which are called as the predatory journals. Yes, so where it will not be pre-reviewed, or they may put as the peer-reviewed journal. But my suggestion is, when we are looking into the journal, it is better to look into the journal as wherever they are indexed in the database. The best database is the journal ranking, then Web of Science, as well as the Scopus index. So these journals are more apt, or PubMed or the Google Scholar. Sometimes we may get certain topic as a part of the dissertation studies, PG dissertation, the MPhil dissertation. Yes, then then media, and then through the internet. So these are the sources which are available for the literature. So this is what I was focused into. When we do the literature, we should look into the journals where they have the more impact factor. Yes, there are predatory journals where they show the impact factor, but The impact factor, it is the Thomson Reuters or Clarivate impact factor. So that is the most important thing we have to look into, because many predatory journals, they list that our impact, somebody has given the impact factor as 6.7. No, they are not. So the first thing is, foremost, we have to look into the paper where it is in the Web of Science or in the Scopus Index or the UGC care. Yes, that can be taken into the consideration. And we have to look into that where the journals have the most impact factor, because the standard papers will be published in this the impact factor journal. So the journal, when we choose, it should have the highest impact factor. So these are the few examples for of the journals where they have the highest impact factor. So this impact factor changes every year. And so it will not be standard impact factor. It will be changed every year. So based on the impact factor, you can go for the selection of the journal. Okay. So after doing all this, the next most important thing is developing the hypothesis. It should be the intelligent process. So it is an intelligent guess. So the developing of this the hypothesis. Yes. So that is most important. The process which are involved in this. So what are this development of this the hypothesis, which is nothing but, so after the extensive literature survey, the researchers should state the clear terms of what is the working hypothesis involved in that. So for example, a hypothesis is proposed for the explanation of an observable phenomenon which is capable of being tested by scientific method. That is what drug A. There are two drugs, drug A and drug B. So we are going to analyze the efficacy of this drug, whether the drug A is superior to drug B or the efficacy of the drug is both are equally. So now, when we put the measures, look into this, is we will be able to, this hypothesis will be capable of being objectively verified or tested. So the development of the hypothesis, it is very much important during the process of during the research. So after the literature survey, the next step it is the working on the hypothesis. So what are the characteristic features of hypothesis? The most important thing is the hypothesis, it should be very clear and precise. As if it is not clear, then whatever the interference, the inferences is nothing but the conclusion we draw, it cannot be reliable. So, and whatever the hypothesis we follow, it should be capable of being tested. Yes, so then it should be limited in the scope, and it should be much. It must be specific to the particular area, and then the most simple terms, so that it is same in easily understandable by all the concerned people. Complicated hypothesis avoiding, and it should be amenable for the testing with a reasonable time. Yes, then the the hypothesis, it has to be actually planned, and it will explain what it claims to explain. So that is the most important in the hypothesis. So now there are when we look into the hypothesis, the most important thing we are going to look into the two. One is the null hypothesis, and the second one is the alternative hypothesis. So null hypothesis is no relationship exists in the parameters whatever it is chosen into, and the second one is the alternative hypothesis. It is nothing but that is also called as H1 hypothesis. So it is nothing but the relationship exists. So to give that, there will be, for example, when we do as I stated earlier, to study the reproductive process or the reproductive physiology of the fish, it is not only the spawning experiment we are going to conduct. So then we are going to look into what is the effect of the temperature on the spawning, yes, or what is the effect of the hormones it is going to spawning, or what is the effect of the feed provided it is going on the spawning, that like that. Suppose if I look into the temperature, if the temperature has no effect on the fish spawning, then that is called as the null hypothesis. Suppose if the temperature significantly influences the spawning activity, alternative hypothesis. So the hypothesis, one is the null, and second one is the alternative hypothesis. So whatever the chosen the research, if it has an influence If the variable influences on that, then it is called as, if the variable affects on that, then it is called as alternating hypothesis. Or if there is no influence of the variable, then it is nothing but it is called as null hypothesis. So these are the two hypotheses we are going to set into. Now, coming to the research design, it's the arrangement of the condition, how we are going to collect the data, how after the collection, how we are going to analyze the data, and how we are bring out our the procedure. So that is in the social sense. But I want the upper one does not come to the biological science. But if you look into the below one, so our research design, it is a blueprint. Just like how we have a blueprint for setting up the question papers. So like that, it is a blueprint for the collection, measurement, and analysis of the data, or it is a plan, or it is an outline of what the researcher will be doing from writing the hypothesis and its operation to be functional and its implication, and finally to the final analysis of the data. So this is most important step in our research design. So it will be a blueprint for the collection, measurement, and analysis of our data. Of our data is nothing but our experimental result. And the second one is, it should be an outline of what the researcher will do from writing the hypothesis, its operational implication, to the final analysis of the data. So these are the various questions which will come to our mind. Yes, when we do the research, yes, what will be our sample design? What periods of the time will the study include? So most of the time, to get many data, yes, whether it is when we study the seasonal variation, or when we study this, at least minimum 1 year data is required. And if you do it in a two years, our research data will have the strong base to support that during the first year of study and during the second year of study. So most of the field work, it consists of it should have the 2 years of the study period. So at least to look into that, whether any seasonal variation has an influence on that. So what period of the time will the study include? Research will not complete by doing 1 year, 1 month, 2 months, or 3 months. The repeated work to have a better data, to better result, better interpretation, better conclusion. So the period of the time study period, it should be more. Then what are the techniques of the data collection will be used as? How will be the data be analyzed? What method we are going to do that for the analysis is, and parallel to that, where can we get the required data can be found? Is where will I carry out the research when we set up, if it is a laboratory work, where exactly the study can be carried out, and why is the study being MACL, and why is what is the study about? Both the right side and the left side, the questions in step by step. It will each step when we think of that. Again, when we go up into the ladder, as again there will be the hurdles or the hindrance where we have to come down, and again we have to find out. So when we look into follow the research or construct the research design, here it is the one where we take much of the time, because when we review the literature, as X paper will have one methodology design, Y will have the one design, Z will have this one design. So what exactly, how if we do some changes in the design, what will be the result we expect into. So when we go up in the ladder in the research design, every time we may have to come back to the origin, and if we don't get the result in the first design plan 1, plan 2, plan 3, then we have to change slightly, moderate changes has to be done according to the plan B or the plan C. So many research design has to be developed in that. Okay. So then after the literature review, then find out the questions or problem, the formulate the hypothesis model, deciding the method of data collection and analysis, then research proposal, then data collection, analysis, then finally we are going to interpret the result, and we are going to write the research. So this we have already explained how we are going to find out the research problem. Okay. Now the most important thing, the criteria to find out the the criteria for a good problem statement is, one is the clarity and specificity, where we have to clearly define the issues or the problem without any ambiguity. There should not be any ambiguity. Then we have to focus on a specific aspect rather than being too broad or vague statement. If you are planning to study the effect of the temperature on the reproductive, so only we have to go for the specific. We should not be the broad, going to be too broad or vague, then we will be deviating from our methodology. And research feasibility, it is not selecting the big data, looking into the literature review, whether it is feasible, can be investigated using the available resources, available time and technology. Okay, so the research feasibility, it should not be, the problem should not be too complex or unrealistic to solve within the research scope. And relevance and the significance, that is most important. Address the, are we, whatever the statement I am selected, are I am going to address the gap in existing knowledge or to solve the real world problem. My research is going to help into the society to solve the research problem, or it has an academic, practical, or the societal importance. Then measurability should allow for the data collection, observation, and experimentation. So we have to define the variables that can be analyzed or measured. Then the most important is novelty and originality. It should contribute to new ideas, new insights, or the new solution. We have to avoid duplicating the existing research without adding value. So that is what this plays, the novelty and originality. It has a great importance in our research. And then the next one is alignment with objective. We relate to the research aim and objective, and we provide a direction for the hypothesis, how we are going to formulate, as well as the methodology. And so this is just an example to show the sources of the research problem. So let us not go. So this is one of the most important criteria for developing the good research, that is feasible, it is interesting, whether it is novel, and whether it is ethical, and whether it is the relevant. Okay. Now let us come to the most important topic, the research design. Yes, the important concept relating to the research design. So the research design, as I told you, it is nothing but the blueprint of the study. Yes, so it will determine the what are our experimental setup, what are the variables. So the variables, is it a continuous variable? Yes, or if it is a discrete variables, whether it is a dependent variable, whether it is a independent variable. Yes, this is what, after setting up of the experiment setup, we are going to find out what are the variables. Yes, so whether it's a continuous variable, whether it is a discontinuous variable, or whether it is a dependent variable, whether it is an independent variable. For example, if we say that height depends upon the age, then height is a dependent variable and age is a independent variable. So whether it is a continuous variable, whether it's a discrete variable, so this is what which relates to our biology. Independent variable, amount of water, variable that's changed. As dependent variable, it is nothing but variable affected by the change. That is size of the plant, the number of leaves, living or dead. So that is what you are going to, whatever the amount of water is the control and the variable. And what is the effect of the water which is given to that? What is the effect on, whether it has an effect on the size, whether this water has a size of the plant, number of the leaves, whether they're living or dead. So this is the differences between the independent as well as the observable dependent variable. So then the next one of the most important variable, it is nothing but the extraneous variable. Here, independent variables are not related to the purpose of the study, but it may affect the dependent variable as terms. That is why it is termed as extraneous variables, or otherwise it is called as confounding variable. So if you look at, I'll repeat again, if an independent variable that are not related to the purpose of the study, but it may affect the dependent variable, so that it is termed as this confounding variables, or otherwise it is called as extraneous variable. So here, our study must always be so designed that the effect upon the dependent variable is attributed entirely to the independent variable and not to some extraneous variable or other variables. So the dependent variable is directly attributed to the independent variable. So when we plan the research design, and then when we do the laboratory analysis or any of the behavioral studies, the first thing, the most important thing, the experimental design, in the biology, it should consist of the component, whatever it is required. They should have a control group. Yes, there should have a treatment group. Then there should be the replication of the groups, and then randomization of the study. That is most important part. So the control is, I think, one of the most important aspect in the of the good research is to minimize the influence or the effect of other extraneous variable. The control group, it is used to in the design of the study, so that this group will minimize the effect of the other factors, that is extraneous or confounding factors on independent variable. So control is used to refer to restrain the experimental condition in a normal, or according to the originality will be retained. The second one is the experiment or the control group. So in the experimental hypothesis, when a group is exposed to usual condition, it is called as control group. But when the group is exposed to some novel or the special condition, it is termed as the experiment group. Suppose if I want to study the role of a chemical in a programmed cell death or otherwise in the apoptosis, is to understand the process of apoptosis or the role of the chemical, effect of the chemical, particular chemical on apoptosis, then I should understand, I should have a control group. What is the normal process which is happening in the culture cell? Is how the cell growth takes place. But in the experimental setup, when I am inducing with that any radiation or the chemical, is how these the factors that is influencing the cell to undergo the process of the apoptosis. So that it is called as, I am adding something to that the culture. So that is what it is called as the experimental group. So when it is exposed to some special condition, it is termed as the experimental group. Then coming to the treatments, the different condition under which the experimental and control groups are put, it is usually termed as the treatment. Suppose in this, for example, in the fish reproductive experiment, for example, group A, it is the normal temperature, and group B. Group A is the normal temperature, that is the control, and group B, it is increased temperature. So that is the experiment. We are going to slowly increase the temperature, and we are going to look into what is the effect of this temperature on the spawning. Then we are going to measure, yes, what is its hormonal level and what is its spawning frequency. Yes, so what is the hormone level in the control and what is the hormone level in the where there's a variation in the temperature or the light or the photo period, etc. Then fine. After that, we are going to look into whether these temperature affect the hormone level, and this hormone level affect the spawning frequency. So that is what it is. The control experiment is must. That is a base for all the experiments. Now, so the different research design, it is called as the exploratory research design, descriptive and diagnostic research design, hypothesis testing research design, or experimental the research design. So again, here there will be independent variable, the factor that is manipulated by the researcher. For that is the same example, the temperature. Then dependent variable, outcome measure, that is the spawning rate, and then controlled variable, the factors which is kept constant. What are the factors which is kept constant? The temperature, water pH, and oxygen. It may be kept constant. Okay. So now, when we go to this research design, so the sampling methods, if it is a field work, if it is an observational research, the most important is the sampling. Why the sampling should be important in this. So what type of the sampling method we are going to do, whether it is a random sampling, whether it is a stratified sampling, or whether it is a systematic sampling, or it is a cluster sampling. So, for example, from different lake zones. So are we going to take a random sample, or we are going to take the stratified sample, or we are going to do the systematic sampling, or we are going to do the cluster sampling? So that also plays an important in our research design. So the next one is, what is the sample size? Yes, the sample size have an effect on the statistical power and reliability of the results. So that is nothing but, the small is the size of the sample, then the results may be unreliable. And if the large is the sample size, they will have the better accuracy of the results. So the sampling size plays an important role. So especially in our science, we cannot do one trial and we cannot conclude our the result. We have to do many trials. So that if the sample size is small, the results will be unreliable. And if the sample size are large, then the results will be, we will have a better accuracy. Okay. So then when we find out when we do the research design, then how we are going to collect the data, that also plays an important role. Whether we are going to do the field observation, whether we are going to do the laboratory experiment for bioinformatics, microbiology, and the biotechnology, and many of the zoology and botany topics. It will depend upon the laboratory experiment. It may involve high the instruments, PCR, etc. The fluorescent techniques, many extraction by different methods, etc. Identification by different methods. What are the effects? So laboratory experiment will be too prolonged, and survey method is also possible. Then molecular techniques, imaging and microscopy, all these are involved in the laboratory experiment. For example, the PCR for gene expression, then microscopy, higher level of the microscopy for cellular analysis, especially the cancer studies and all. Yes, the high level microscopes to required to study this. So whatever the laboratory experiments is, we have to do the many trials to get the results. So they say the laboratory experiments are much prolonged. And when we, as I told you, when after the sample, then the data will be of two types. One is the qualitative as well as the quantitative. Already I told you, the qualitative is the observation and behavior of animals or the field study. The quantitative is the numerical measurement. As whether you take an enzymatic activity, there will be the measurement. In this temperature, this is the enzymatic activity. If I alter the pH, this is how there is an alteration in the enzymatic activity. So these are the various the one which is involved in the research design. So after the data the data collection and experimentation and data collection, the most important thing is the data analysis. Yes, the data analysis. So why is the data analysis important? Because it enables us to test the hypothesis. We are able to validate our result, whether it is statistically significant, and we can find out at what level the significance level is. That is, P is less than or greater than or equal to the 0.5% is permissible in the biological data. So we are going to test the hypothesis, we are going to validate the result, and we are going to determine the significance. And what are the common tests we do for this? It is major in the biological. One is the t-test, then ANOVA, one-way ANOVA, multiple ANOVA, two-way ANOVA, then chi-square test, and regression analysis. So these are the basic, the common tests which we use in the biological data. Okay. So then the next one is the stages in the statistical investigation. So that is what I explained, the collection of data over. Then we have to organize the data, or classify, tabulate it properly. Then we have to present it at the data. Then we have to do the analysis, and then we are going to do the interpretation. Interpretation is done usually by the t-test, ANOVA, MANOVA, chi-square, F-test, then regression analysis, etc. That is a certain example where we are going to analyze in the sample. So then the next one is, as I told you, the variables. This we look into the variables. It is variables are nothing but it's a measurable traits that can change the scientific course of our experiment. So the one variable is, if you look at which can vary the like height, weight, blood pressure, disease status, etc. So the variables are independent variable as well as the dependent variable and extraneous variable, whatever I have explained, that also it has to be looked into consideration. So now the fundamental tools for the scientific method, one is the hypothesis formulation, the second one is experimental design, then data gathering, then the data summarization and representation, and drawing the interference. So to draw the interference, as the most important thing is there are different statistics tools are available. One is the SPSS statistics. It is a most trended statistics, but only thing is we should know how to enter the data in this software. So once you enter the data properly and you click what exactly which the statistic analysis it has to be done. Naturally, with the graph and representing the significance, level of the significance and difference, it is going to give. So SPSS is common. It's a user-friendly one. The second one is the JMP. It is a data visualization tool. It's a powerful for data analysis, quality control, and the clinical studies. Much of this it is used in the pharmacology, and to study the diseases, if it is a disease related and public health related, for the longitudinal data analysis and survival analysis, as the Stata is used. Then the Pillar BC is also a software. Then GraphPad Prism, that is also the software where we are able to not only get the, which is a one which is used for the biological science, where we are not able to get the interpretation, but we are able to publish the ready graphs. We will get the curve fittings, dose responses analysis, as interferential statistics. So for the biological science, and if we do the laboratory analysis, the GraphPad Prism, that is the best one, where we get the data is entered with the graph, and we can alter the fittings of the graph is nothing but how well we can present the graphical representation. Then one more, there is a statistic analysis system is there. Yes, it is also the standard statistic analysis system. Then free open source, it is RR and Studio is also available. Then specialized open source tools are InVivoStat, Jamovi, EpiInfo, Pythons, then Cytospace. All these are involved. So, but this is more advanced form when bioinformatics are involved in that, when dose composition, biomedical research, the scientific computing, all this can be done with the Pythons. Okay, so now the most important it is the ethics in the biological research. Is when we look into when we design the experiment, so we have to consider about the ethics in the biological research. So if we are doing about the dose compensation and some behavioral studies, changes in so we have to take the animal committee ethics, the biosafety protocol, especially when we are using the chemicals, and then we have to take the human research ethics approval if you are doing study in the diseases and all. And if you are related to the environment, then we have to take approval from this environmental conservation bodies and all. So the ethics is must in the biological research. So special ethical consideration depending upon our plan. If you are doing with the animals, when we do with the animals, it's especially the rat or in the few, that is a zebra fish. But if it is a mammalian, the model, then we have to take the permission from the Animal Ethics Committee approval. Then biosafety protocol must be taken into consideration. Then if you are doing related to some research studies, related to diseases study, then human research ethics approval should be taken. And if you are involved in any environmental approval from the environmental conservation areas, it has to be okay. So once we do our research, when we get the data, interpret the data, conclusion, the whatever the research we have carried out, yes, it has to be published. Yes, it has to be published. So how we are going to write the, whether it's a research proposal. Uh, there is one more thing where we can get the money, seed money for the research. There are various agencies we have to put into VGST, DBT. Yes, there are various NGOs which funds for the research. So when it funding for the research, it is basically based on the relevant to the society. So what are the things which has to be most important thing? It is one is introduction, again the review of the literature, methodology, expected outcomes, and that is what we are going to look into. Then grant, when you propose for any grant from any of the institutes or any of the NGO, so you have to look into how secure the funding from the organizations are. Then after the completion of the research, the last step of our this is the publishing the research paper. So as I told you earlier, not only the reviewing the literature to look into the good paper, we have to look into the paper which are having the high impact journals. It should be Scopus indexed with the Scimago journal ranking, or the peer review. It has to undergo the peer review processes, and the structuring a research manuscript should have the abstract, introduction, methods, results, as well as the discussion. So this is the research proposal format. One example, artificial intelligence. So now the upcoming research, it is that the utilization of this artificial intelligence in the agricultural field and every field of the research. So these are the literature proposal format has to be followed into this. And while doing the bibliography, most of the time the science, it follows the APA format, that is American Psychological Association. So the references, whatever we have made, or the bibliography, whatever we have done, each journals have different format. Okay, one is the APA format and one is the MLA format. Modern Language Association follow this, but APA format, after the author's name, the year of the publication will come in bracket, then title of the research, then which journal it is, volume, year, etc., and then the number of the pages, and DOE number, that is must. That now there are. The DOE, it is most important in this APA format. With this, I thank the organizer an opportunity to give a talk on the research methodology in the biological process. Hope I have reached to the attenders who have participated in this session.
Thank you very much, ma'am, for your insightful and informative session on research methodology in biological sciences. Your lecture has clearly explained the importance of systematic research methods, experimental design, and scientific analysis in the field of biological science. I'm sure this session has provided valuable knowledge and guidance to all the participants and will certainly help them in their research work. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for your insightful session. Now, we will move for the interaction session. Is there any question from participant side? Please put your question in chat box or please raise your hands. Dear participants, if you have any questions, kindly feel free to post them in the chat box or raise your hands.
I think I can take into consideration either they must have understood everything or not understood.
Yeah, there is one question, ma'am. Please go through the chat box. It's a question from Pawan MG. How to select problem and frame hypothesis?
From frame the hypothesis. May I know from which field of the biological science you are from, sir?
Yeah, ma'am. Science only. The thing is, after reviewing the literature, so there will be a lot of problem. We need like how to select the particular problem and frame the hypothesis for it.
See, I'm asking with are you from botany background, zoology or microbiology, biotechnology? Which background you are from?
Physics.
Physics. You are from physics background. Okay.
Yes.
It's the selection of the problem. The how to select a problem. That is the title of your experiment. What research you are going to look into? Yes, am I right?
Yeah, ma'am. Yeah, ma'am. Because in during literature review, there are be so many unsolved problem. But the thing is, which one to pick and like how to frame it
So
is the very difficult.
So that is what, sir, you have to have at least some 3 to 4 titles in your hand, the problem statement in your hand. Okay, then after that, when you develop the objectives for that particular problem statement, you are going to find out whether these problems will be able to carry out whichever the facilities are available to carry out in your what is that university or wherever you want to research do it. Or the next step is where it will be available to conduct my experiment. That you have to look into that. Suppose if you are through with that, then when you go for the depth of your research, then you will be create the new ideas. You will be able to solve the or reach into the or do the hypothesis. So the plan, don't go with one plan, sir. You have to have at least minimum 5 to 6 statements and objective for that. So whichever the objectives is able to reach that, so accordingly you have to. The main thing is when you look into the statement, whether the facilities are available to conduct the research, that you have to look into the consideration.
Okay, madam.
Madam, there is one more question in chat box.
Which method is suitable for checking reliability of the tool? Which tool you are referring into, madam? Is it a statistical tool? I think this question is posted by Shilpa
Kala.
Kala. Yeah. SPSS is the better statistic tool.
Questionnaire. She posted like questionnaire.
Which tool is suitable to develop into the questionnaire? Is it your question, ma'am? There are no particular tool to set the questionnaire. So because each research carries the different questionnaire. So we have to do the literature review particular to that and what type of questions they have asked and what different things we can be asked into. So that there's no particular tool to set up the questionnaire. Of course, the ChatGPT will give, but I don't know how relevant these ChatGPTs are. I think there are no questions.
Yeah, ma'am. Okay. Thank you, ma'am. On behalf of Sri Siddhaganga College of Arts, Science and Commerce for Women, Tumkuru, I sincerely thank Dr. Shubha M, Professor, Department of Zoology and Coordinator IQAC, BMS College for Women, Autonomous Institution, Bangalore, for sparing her valuable time and sharing her expertise with us. Thank you. Thank you very much, ma'am.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank
I
you.
also-
For the opportunity.
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you.
I also thank all the participants for their active presence and participation. Kindly remember to fill out the feedback form, which will be shared in the WhatsApp group. Thank you all. We will look forward to seeing in tomorrow's final session of this faculty development program. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.